Breaking bedrock in Minecraft might seem impossible, but it's actually quite easy, and I'll show you how to do it a ton of different ways in this bedrock breaking guide. There are a couple different reasons why you'd want to actually break bedrock inside of Minecraft, and where that bedrock may be located. All the methods for breaking bedrock in this video only work for Java edition, and of course the main reason for breaking bedrock is to get to the Nether roof. As you could see here, for example, we have a passage where you can go up and down this ladder, and because we broke this one piece of bedrock up here, we now have a really easy and viable way of getting onto the Nether roof without having to bypass this big bedrock roof any other way. But there's some other situations in which you'd also want to break bedrock. Another common reason for breaking bedrock is to do that in the overworld and get yourself away into the void. Now of course the overworld void is incredibly dangerous, and it's really only for novelty that a player would want access to it, but still this is another thing you can also do by breaking bedrock in the overworld. And you then have this very convenient spot where you can fall into the void and not really be able to come back. Another great reason to break bedrock is found in the end dimension, with the outer end gateways, which are of course around the main end island, but are also around the outer end islands leading you back to the main island. And for instance right here we got rid of 6 bedrock that were on top of this, just like the area that's on the bottom, so that instead of having a trapdoor or throwing an ender pearl into this, we can literally just walk or jump directly into it, which saves a ton of time, and definitely can be a good project for any long-term Minecraft world where you're accessing the outer end islands through that gateway super frequently. Like let's say if you had a base over here, or maybe some automatic farms. So now that we know some reasons to actually break bedrock in the game, how do you do this? There's a lot of different methods, and I'm going to walk you through 4 of them that work in every single dimension and for every single situation. Before I teach you a bunch of different methods for breaking bedrock, let's first learn how to get to the Nether roof. You want to basically go to the highest part of the Nether you can, and then start digging upwards till you eventually will hit bedrock. This isn't usually too difficult because the Nether roof is actually fairly low down, sitting at 128 blocks up. Also, this is unfortunately only possible inside of Java edition, as in Bedrock edition the Nether roof border is much more absolute. You'll notice when we're digging around here, sometimes the netherrack will go higher up than in other places. We want to find an area where the netherrack goes all the way to the top, so that we only have one block we need to break. So you just need to dig around till you find that, and you can also notice below us it goes right down. So what we can actually do here is we can use our ladders and scaffolding or whatever other supplies we brought to get up here. Now in terms of what supplies you are going to need, you're of course going to need, let's say, scaffolding or ladders, or even just building a staircase up here. You're also going to need 10 obsidian, a flint and steel, as well as of course a good pickaxe, some food, and maybe some temporary building blocks, with one of your most important ingredients being ender pearls. Now once we've found this block that's really high up, we actually want to start by marking down its coordinates. So you can do that by turning on your coordinates on your F3 screen and then taking a screenshot of that. Then you want to go up to the very top of where this ladder is and kind of look a little bit above the ladder but not quite straight up into the bedrock itself. Hold out your ender pearls while holding the space bar, right click once, and you're going to appear above there. You'll notice we literally just phased through the bedrock and are now on top of the Nether roof. But we have one problem. Which one of these blocks did we go through? There's really no way of telling from up here, so we're just going to basically go back to our screenshot and we're going to take a look at the coordinates and line them up. So it seems like -19 was one of our coordinates and the other coordinate was 92, so the block that we went through is right here. Now that we know that block, we can place down something to mark that out. I'll just pick netherrack, but it could be whatever you want, and later on we're going to go back there to break that block. But before we do that, let's get our way back off of the Nether roof, place down 2 obsidian on the bedrock here, then 2 temporary blocks to the side. Of course we'll just finish this Nether portal by putting 3 obsidian up here and finishing by putting 2 obsidian on top. And it's often a good idea to bring a little extra obsidian and maybe even 2 flint and steel, because of course if we lose one of them and this breaks, there's literally no way of getting out of here except for dying. And so of course we're going to go through this portal here, and on the other side we'll then have a link to get onto the Nether roof. Here are all 4 methods laid out, as you can now see which supplies they all take. This method, which updates the piston by using this torch, uses 2 temporary blocks, a trapdoor, a lever, 1 piston, 1 torch. The one con of this method is that there is this large distance that's needed, so it's not perfect for very tight situations. Over here we have the flat method. This takes 2 obsidian, a lever, 2 TNT, 1 piston, and 1 trapdoor. This method takes 2 obsidian, a trapdoor, a lever, 2 TNT, TNT and a piston, which is literally identical to this one over here. It's just oriented in a different way. And this third method is kind of similar to this one, but it's 1 obsidian, 1 temporary block, 2 TNT, a piston, a lever, as well as a trapdoor. Alright, here's how you break bedrock, the first method, which I call the flat method. You're going to need 2 TNT, 2 obsidian, a trapdoor, some torches to light up the area, and a lever. But you're also going to probably want a pickaxe, as well as some extra levers, extra pistons, and extra TNT. It's completely necessary that you have at least one other piston, but these other ones here is of course up to you. Now to actually destroy the bedrock, we're going to decide which piece we want to break. So for us, that's going to be the block that's directly underneath this piece of netherrack. We're going to break the piece of netherrack and place a sideways piston where the netherrack was. Then we're just going to go around here dotting down some torches so that we can actually see in this area and our workspace is not completely obstructed. Alright, now that we've done that, you want to take 2 pieces of obsidian, place one of them sideways to the piston and one of them behind the pushing face of the piston. Now that the area is quite bright, you want to take your obsidian and place one of them directly behind the pushing face of the piston, and also one of them underneath the piston like this, placing a lever on this piece of obsidian and placing 2 TNT to the side of it. Then over here, place down your trapdoor so you can flip it down like this, and that'll make you go into crawl mode, as you can see. Now you want to just make it so that your pistons are in your hand and nothing else is, so that you can really easily access those. And all you have to actually do to break the TNT is go up to this lever, flick it on, run over here, flick this trapdoor up and down, go to the side, and basically place down a piston there when it explodes. Now, I don't believe I did that correctly, and this is the reason why you want to bring extra TNT, extra levers, and also extra pistons. So we return the piston to this position right here, and then as well as that, we place down the lever again, place down 2 more TNT, so 2 TNT and a lever are consumed every time. We then of course can try again, so get the pistons in your hand, flick this lever, head over here, flip down the trapdoor, and start clicking right here as fast as you can. The idea is we're looking in the top left corner of this obsidian block here, and we're going to be right clicking to place those down as many times a second as you possibly can. There's also some other tricks to do this easier. The piston will be placed downwards, and usually the bedrock will be broken. So another trick is to go where this trapdoor is, and then of course just right click on that lever, right click on the trapdoor, hold your piston, start spam clicking as fast as you can, and placing that down. And we have a piston over here, and if we break this, you can see it did indeed break that bedrock, so that was successful. Now of course we're going to want to grab at least one ladder and put it up here to have a way to get up, and then just simply remove this obsidian, place your last ladder down, and we've now successfully used this method to break the bedrock. Now there's a chance you may be having trouble breaking the bedrock, and I can really easily show you some tricks to make these methods go from fairly difficult to easy for everyone. The part of these bedrock breaking methods which make them fairly restricted, and the reason why most players are not just casually going around breaking bedrock, is the fact that they can actually be incredibly difficult when you're right clicking here trying to spam that piston in. If you do not click at an incredibly fast frequency, you're going to unfortunately miss out and have to waste a ton of levers and a ton of TNT to not even have a guaranteed breaking of that piece of bedrock. But if you want to do it the first time, almost every time, here's a really simple trick. Instead of right clicking to place down these pistons, what if we make it a bit easier and attach it to a keybind that is going to click 20 times a second for us? I'll show you what I mean. If we go to options, and then on your options menu go to controls, under controls go to keybinds on the top right there, and scroll down to gameplay, you can see you have the left button, middle button, and right button by default. We want to go to the right button here and press R or M or Y, or just a key that's not being used, and ideally a key closer to where your hand is already on the keyboard, so for example R. Now what happens is when we right click, nothing's going to happen anymore because our right click has been rebounded to R. Because of this, we can hold down that right click and spam things super quickly. As you can see, for whatever reason, you can place things incredibly quickly when you're spam clicking by holding down that key, and the reason that that actually happens is pretty simple. It's when you're holding down any key on a mouse, it's actually clicking 20 times a second, and so because of that, that enables you to do things like this, instantly placing down an insane amount of blocks, and we can use this really overpowered functionality of rebinding a key to make this much much easier, because now whenever we press R, that's going to place down a piston if pistons are in our hand. We're going to go up here, and instead of right clicking on this lever, we're actually going to press R. Go over here, press R twice, go under here, and then just hold R on the keyboard while looking in that corner. And although we didn't get it this time because we were slightly behind, this method almost always will get you your result. So for example, we can do this method the way we did before, where we just flick the lever from here, flick this down, get those pistons in our hand, look up at this corner, and I'm holding down R. You can see that time it did do it successfully. We can break this block, and that bedrock is now broken. This method works on every single way of breaking bedrock in the game. So again, we flick this lever, we go over here, we have R as our keybind, we're holding down R while looking in that corner, we placed it down, and if we break this, you'll notice the block underneath there. So that's a really important trick. And again, to rebind your keys, escape, options, controls, keybinds, and you can bind this to whatever you want. Once you are done breaking bedrock, which of course could be one bedrock or a ton of bedrock, just press reset right here, and then you'll be right back to right click, placing down your blocks. But there are 3 other methods, and it's up to you which one you want to use, as I think they all have advantages and disadvantages. For the next method, we're also going to need 2 obsidian, 2 TNT, a bamboo trapdoor, a piston, and of course some extra trapdoors, extra levers, and extra TNT. Now for this method, instead of placing the piston sideways, we're actually going to place it upwards. So place directly above the bedrock that you want to break, and upwards piston. Then place a piece of TNT off of that, and 2 obsidian to the side, while taking another piece of TNT, placing it down here, putting a lever above it, and putting a trapdoor of any type right here. And of course light up the area so you can see what you're doing. Now for this method, we want to flip up and then flip down again the trapdoor, and while looking up, you want to flick this lever. But you may notice something already. We have TNT right next to us on either side. And so for this method, make sure to have the best possible armor that you can, like let's say netherite, and of course we can then equip that and be much more protected against the blast. So go down here and get the pistons in your hand, then you want to flick down this lever right here to activate it, go to the side and start spam clicking at the corner of the obsidian right here, and what'll usually happen is when we break this, you'll see right underneath that the bedrock, yes indeed, has been broken. Now we got lucky right here, and the block beneath the bedrock is netherrack. However, what'll usually happen is the block underneath this will be more bedrock, and so because of that, it's always so important to make sure that you know what blocks you're breaking, so you do not end up wasting all your time on a place that's invalid to even put in a ladder downwards. And again, the trick with this method is when you're underneath that trapdoor and you're looking at the obsidian, you want to be looking while still underneath the trapdoor at this corner right here, somewhere in this area. Well, of course, just right clicking as fast as you possibly can with those pistons, so you place them down right here, and so you can just start clicking insanely fast to do that. Now all of these methods work for all uses of breaking bedrock, but for this third method, I'm just going to demonstrate this for breaking pieces of bedrock on the end gateways. Now for certain applications like this, you're going to want to have a lot of building blocks with you. Now for certain applications like this, you're going to want to have a lot of building blocks with you, because you may need a platform so you can break your bedrock from that platform a lot easier. Alright, so we've made our way over here, and the first block we're going to break is this one right up here. Now we're going to surround it with some of these planks to give us a bit of a platform to work from, but other than that, this method is going to be the same as anywhere else. Go above the piece of bedrock you want to break, and place a piston facing upwards on that. Then place a piece of TNT and a piece of netherrack, or really any really easily breakable solid block, and put it to the side of the TNT, placing another TNT on top of that. Place an obsidian to the side underneath that piece of netherrack, and place a lever on a piece of netherrack with the warp trapdoor underneath here. Now of course we can flip this down to go into crawl mode. However, to make this a bit safer, what you actually want to do is, instead of having planks right up here, the very best choice is to use a completely unbreakable block, like let's say obsidian, that you can place down around here. This again is just giving you a solid platform, so that when those TNT explode, they're not going to at very least destroy the blocks that are directly underneath your feet. Anyway, go up here, of course right click the trapdoor to crawl down, get your pistons in your hand, and flick this lever while sort of crawling to the left side here. Once we've done that, we can then of course start spam placing things, and if we did it correctly, and we can of course check that, you'll see the piece of bedrock under there has completely disappeared. We can then of course break all the obsidian around here and make ourselves a brand brand new platform that's at the same level as the bedrock. And just continue this process, breaking all the obsidian. So that's how you do that sort of more vertical method that also has some temporary blocks in it. And let's move on to the final method, which we may as well test out in the overworld just to get ourselves some experience doing it in different areas. Now, if you're actually trying to break bedrock to eventually get access to the void underneath here, the one problem that you will run into is actually fitting the bedrock breaker at this bottom level. And so because of that, what players generally have to do is start their effort by breaking a lot of the upper bedrock pieces here to eventually be able to have a small area down here that they can fit in their bedrock breaking machine to break one of these pieces and then of course get into the void. This method uses a mechanic that none of the other methods use, which is basically a strange way of distorting the block updates to pistons. You're going to want to start by of course finding the block that you actually want to destroy and then placing the piston on top of that block. We then want to place a torch behind the piston, and placing a piece of TNT temporarily, put netherrack on top and to the side of that TNT, then break it. You then want to place a trapdoor of any type and put it on the bottom surface of this top netherrack. Now place a lever on top of this netherrack here, and flip that lever on. Break this torch, and you'll notice this piston will now extend. Replace the torch and turn off this lever. What'll now happen is if anything breaks this torch, this piston will retract. So you can see the trick there is of course by tricking that piston, we can have something that does destroy this torch and have it retract on command. So you want to have the torch here and the lever flicked off eventually once this piston is pushed out. Then while not placing a block here, because that'll also update it, place 2 blocks here just to mark out the distance and place a piece of TNT right over here. This method only uses 1 TNT, unlike the other methods that all consume 2 each time. Now the eventual position we want to be is crouched down here, spamming right click while looking at this trapdoor, but while also being crouched down. Because of course if we're not crouched down, we're just going to be opening and closing that trapdoor. We want to be placing things right here so they'll eventually go where this piston is. The trick is to flick the lever, run over here, crouch, and then of course start spamming right click right here. And you can see right there the pistons seem to move kind of strangely, and if we break that now sideways facing piston, you can see the block is gone and we have a way to get into the void. But be extremely careful with methods of getting into the void, because once you're down there, you're basically down there, and it can be really hard to get back up. And I would actually generally not recommend to use this method for breaking bedrock at the bottom of the overworld, just because of that TNT that needs to be far out. It can be really hard to clear space for it. However, if the bedrock you're breaking is in the nether roof or in the end, this method is far superior to the others. But anyway, that's everything about how to break bedrock in Minecraft Java Edition. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to press the like button, subscribe to see more content like this, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!